Morning. This is Solomon Wangwe, Goshen Acquisitions, GrandAcres Limited. So today is an unusual day in the sense that it's a land control board hearing date for our project in Imbuko, which sits under Mashuru sub-county. So we're just about to take off from the office to head out there to appear before the land control board to get their permissions to transfer all the various titles that we're selling to a number of our early bird buyers for Imbuko. So I'll be taking you along on the trip, discuss what a land control board is. Hopefully we can even sneak in some shots of the actual board hearing if possible, but at the very least you'll be able to see exactly where they have it and how long it takes, which is why many of us don't like to go to the land control board. So stay tuned, it's gonna be fun. All right, so we are at the Nyayo Stadium roundabout. As you can see, that's Nyayo Stadium just back there, and it's exactly 124 kilometers from here to the turnoff at Emali town towards Imbuko when you join the Oloitoktok highway. And beyond that, we travel down Oloitoktok highway for about 33 kilometers and then go off road for 9, so you're looking at a total of 42. From Mombasa Road. The whole journey typically takes us 2.5 hours. Hopefully when the expressway is done, maybe later this month or next month, that trip should shorten by 20 to 30 minutes in my view, which will be awesome. So it'll be a lot easier to manage your property in Imbuko if you need to go plant trees or get away from Nairobi and enjoy the views and the scenery down at Imbuko. But for today, I'm on my way to Mashuru, which is right at the heart of Kajiado County. We're going to branch off at the Namanga Highway, roundabout into Kitengela, down towards Kajiado town, and then take the new road into Mashuru, which is where the land control board hearings are held for our zone in Imbuko. So rather than go down Mombasa Road, I'm going to divert at Kitengela, and you'll see exactly what that looks like. All right, so we just passed Kitengela town. We're approaching Kisaju, just got into Kisaju, which is the next sort of suburb outside of Kitengela towards Kajiado. So we're on the Namanga Highway. As I mentioned before, the reason I'm using this route today is because I'm on my way to Mashuru, which is a sub-county headquarters in Kajiado for the land control board hearing for all our transfers for the early bird buyers for Imbuko. Those who have engaged us by now, it's the 30th of March 2022. The land boards are held every month, once a month for Mashuru. Usually it's the last Wednesday of each month. And as you can see, some decent development going on. This area, as even 10 years ago was not as developed. I used to drive down this way to Kajiado County, or Kajiado town rather, which is where the land control boards used to be held, even for Imbuko. And we have seen massive changes in development, infrastructure development down this corridor. And so for those of you who have expressed a little bit of concern about the undeveloped nature of our Imbuko neighborhood, as I've said before, real estate investment is not a get-rich-quick scheme. You have to have a long-term mindedness about the risk you're taking. Look into the future. My goal is always work with 10, 20, 30-year timelines when you're projecting actualized valuation for you, right? So if you play the long game, you will always do fine. And this area is a prime example of exactly that sort of dynamic, where 10 years ago there was nothing here besides a highway. In fact, the highway was just being completed back then. all the way to Namanga. So we had lots of diversions of dirt road along the way, and now it's a busy major highway with petrol stations almost every 200 meters, it seems. Car washes, amazing housing estates. We just passed a couple. So have a long-term view, and you'll do fine. And this is why we ourselves invested in Imbuko when we did. We loved the openness of the area, the fresh air, the amazing views of Mount Kilimanjaro, which you don't even have from this particular corridor unless you get closer to Namanga. And soon it's gonna look exactly like this particular area, right? So I just wanted to point that out. And one last thing, the reason I am going to Imbuko myself, I know some people have wondered about that. Don't I have team members to send to the land control board and so on? By formal policy, the owner of record has to present themselves before the land control board for their hearings, which is why I take time to do it myself. We don't take shortcuts. Again, Goshen Acquisitions and GrandAcres Limited are about following due process. That is one of the ways you guarantee safe ownership of your properties, is that you have followed due process, which is why I go myself. I am a director, a shareholder of both companies. I'm the managing director. I present myself every month for all our properties. We don't do special boards. There is no such thing as a special board. So anyone who tells you that you can needs to be avoided. They're advising you to do illegal things and unethical things. And it would certainly be easier for me to do special board, because I would save myself the 5-6 hours I have to be on the road to and fro, the 2 or 3 hours I have to sit on a bench waiting for the land board to convene. But I do it because it's the right thing to do, and it's the only thing that you are supposed to do legally speaking. So I just wanted to stress that point. This is something we do ourselves every single month to ensure that you have safe ownership of your property once you have paid for it. So a little bit of background on who constitutes the land control boards for Mashuru, and generally for most other land control boards in the country. It's supposed to be constituted by various representatives from national government, county government, and the local community, right? So the chairman is almost always the county commissioner or a representative of the county commissioner's office. Before, it used to be the district commissioner, the DC, but now under the devolved system, it's the DCC, which is the deputy county commissioner. In counties as large as Kajiado, where you have 3 jurisdictions for land control boards, it would be virtually impossible for the same county commissioner to appear and chair, every land control board hearing. So they delegate that to the deputy county commissioner, which is the situation in Mashuru, and has a secretary. The secretary is typically an officer from the Ministry of Lands for the county office, national government, and you also have a representative, sort of an assistant to the secretary, usually from the local jurisdiction, and then the rest are comprised of a local council of elders, if you will, who are members of the community. They're usually older people, senior citizens, but refreshingly, I've started to see a younger representation over the years. People, by younger, I mean people in their 40s. I don't believe I've seen anyone in their 30s. And there's reason for that, because you're supposed to have people who represent some wisdom around the historical context of the local area, as far as controlling fragmentation of lands, avoiding disputes between family members. When one family member is selling off, family property, and things of that nature. So hopefully, I don't know if they'll allow us to take our cameras into the room, and it'll be understandable if they don't, but we'll try. Nothing wrong with trying. And maybe you get to see what the Land Control Board members generally look like, what the room looks like. It's a very unimpressive situation in my view, only because people tend to imagine something a lot more grand than what happens on the ground. But the importance of that gathering cannot be understated. It's legally mandated, constitutionally mandated. All agricultural lands in Kenya have to get consents for anything except for amalgamation. When you're combining pieces of land together is the only time you're not required to go to the Land Control Board. But for everything else, whether you're borrowing from a bank and need to register a charge on the title as security, if you're selling the property, if you're transferring the property to someone else or receiving it from someone else, if you want to subdivide, if you want to register some other sort of caution, you have to deal with the Land Control Board. So the importance in this process is extremely high. It cannot be understated, which is why we are very particular about making sure we attend the Land Control Board. We don't take shortcuts. We show up, and that way we ensure that all the documents on the back end that make your title deed clean are in place. We are just arriving in Mashuru, Mashuru town, which is a sub-county headquarter, one of the few in Kajiado County. As you can see, small but steadily growing town. I can tell you, for the year or so that we've been coming to Mashuru for land board hearings, I have seen growth. New buildings are being constructed. There's more human traffic, and I love to watch that trajectory over time and the impact economically and ultimately on property values, which is my area of particular interest. But hopefully, as I said, we get some shots of the actual board hearing as relates to Goshen acquisitions, and our appeal to the Land Control Board to get permission or consent to transfer to our first batch of early bird buyers for our Imbuko 1 acre parcels of land, going for only 799K each, at least for the next 9 plots. And we increase the value because a lot of value addition is going into the site on road access, all-weather maram access, and so on. So we're going to be changing the price. It will no longer be an early bird price. So for those of you who are still sitting on the fence, I hope that you can make a decision. Do yourself a favor, get in on the ground floor on this amazing opportunity. But here we are. As you can see, people have started gathering. Some of these have traveled from as far away as Oloitoktok to wait for the Land Control Board to convene. And then we're in business. So keep watching. So we are here at the administrative compound, as you can see around me, in Mashuru sub-county. Mashuru is spelled M-A-S-H-W-R-U. Mashuru, it's a Maasai word, sub-county of Kajiado County. And as is typical, we usually end up having to wait for the members of the Land Board Committee to show up. Currently, we're simply waiting, I believe, for the secretary, who is coming all the way from Kajiado or Kitengela, which is about an hour and 15 minutes drive from here. So, you know, first thing we typically do is I like to make sure that the individual who prepares the minutes for the land board for the day had indeed received all our documents beforehand, for the application forms duly signed and filled in, signed by both parties, ourselves as the transferors and the transferees or purchasers or their representative. We pay the booking fee, and this is one of the critical steps you ensure that you follow. You pay the Department of Land's cash office your booking fee for the Land Control Board for the day. And as you can see, I have the original receipt here with me. It's 1,000 shillings for each transaction that you're applying for. In our case, we have 24 of them for today. Those are the numbers we could book in time, which is 7 business days before today. The others have to wait until next month because we do not do special board. There is no such thing, so never do one. Anyone tells you to do one, either slap them or don't transact with them because they're trying to put you in a ditch. It's immoral, it's unethical and illegal. So we show up for the actual land control board, the scheduled ones. You can get the schedule from the actual offices. They are pre-scheduled for the entire year. You will know well in advance which dates of each month they will be convening. And we have our receipt. It's a critical part of your due process, right? And along with that, you bring your original documents, which is the original title deeds. As you can see, I have a copy of one of those here with me. Everything else was submitted 7 days prior. They are in their custody, the application forms with your passport photos attached. I'll include some cutaways and pictures in this video just so you have an idea what they look like. Once they're ready, we will get called in as according to the roster for when you booked. You present your documents and they decide yes or no, are they approving your application. In our case today, like I mentioned before, we're asking them for consent to transfer 24 title deeds to our new customers for Imbuko, those who paid their deposits in time for us to book for them. Generally speaking, I will not book a land board for a transaction where we have not received financial deposits for, because it's a costly exercise. We pay to be listed for the day. We've driven 2.5 hours basically from Nairobi. It costs us time and money to do this, so we only do it once we have sale agreements signed and purchase deposits received. And thankfully the chairman and a few other land board members have agreed to let us take our camera in with us for our session, so you'll get to see very briefly what a typical land control board session looks like, who the members are, what it sort of looks and feels like. Nothing glamorous about it, but extremely important, so stay tuned. So, guys, just an interesting happenstance. I bumped into John Mbeki, Orikai. We know the family as the Mbeki family. They are one of the first families that sold us land in Imbuko in 2012. He and his mom sold us 70 acres in 2012, yes, which we since subdivided and sold to a bunch of customers of ours. And so it's not uncommon that we run into our neighbors in Imbuko because we all have to present ourselves to the same land control board for various transactions. So this is John. I figured I'd just throw him in the video for you. Anything you want to say for our viewers? How much you like us? What's going on in Imbuko? Yeah.
Imbuko ni kuzuri sana. Na Solomon alikuwa rafiki wa muda like 10 years ago. So he's a good buyer in land. So naweza sema huyu ni jirani wangu
kabisa. Yeah.
Naona vile mambo yanaendelea Imbuko si mbaya. Kama Solomon alikuwa alikuja Imbuko wa kwanza, Imbuko tungekuwa na stima, tungekuwa na mambo mengi. So Solomon is a good friend of mine. Yeah.
Thanks for saying that. Yes, and thank you for selling us land.
Yes.
You didn't have to. Asante sana, tunashukuru mlituuzia shamba. Hatukuwa na shida. Mama natumaini yuko sawa, msalimie. Tuko area, bado tutapatana. Na asante kwa kuniruhusu nikiweke kwa kamera. Najua huku expect.
Naona mambo kwa YouTube.
Yes.
Ninaangalia sana.
Very good. Endelea na usambazie watu wajue tunafanyanga kazi safi. Yeah. Poa. All right, so I'm about to get called into the Land Control Board and just preparing my documents. One of the most critical things you have to bring with you are the original titles for the specific transactions you're looking to get approval for, which are here. Again, unlike agents or brokers, we only sell land that we wholly own, which is why we have the original titles, which is why I, as a director, present myself physically for each and every Land Control Board hearing. And that's what we're about to do. So come on in. Since they allowed us to film that, you're about to see what the Land Control Board hearing looks like. All right, so it's now 2:31 p.m. I just walked out of the Land Control Board session, where thankfully we received approval for all our applications, all 24 of them, which I'm grateful for because it could go the other way. So we've been here since just before 11 a.m. when we arrived. So we've been here for 3.5 hours basically, and this is what it takes sometimes to get it done right. I had hoped that they would allow us to film, as they indeed approved for us to. Initially, the chair of the board agreed to have us film the session, but upon further consultation with all the other board members, they declined our request to capture them on video, but they did allow us to take a selfie with them in the boardroom, which hopefully you can see in the video. And my team is in there with me as well. So all's well and good. Back to site now just to check on some progress with the maraming of our access roads at Imbuko. And then we head back to Nairobi and prepare to do this again the next time. So stay tuned. We just left the Land Control Board in Mashuru, and one of the guys in the car with me, my team, I have a lot of support. You might not see them because they know how to hide in the back of the car. But one of them just asked me about this special board situation and why it's illegal, what makes it illegal. So most people are not aware that you have to present yourself to the Land Control Board to get consents, because a lot of times the professionals they rely on to guide them and counsel them along the way will perpetrate a lot of illegal actions. And by this I mean careless advocates, lawyers. So the normal process is that you fill in an application form, you attach the required documents, which will include a copy of the title deed that's related to your application. You'll require the identification documents of both parties. You will also require passport photos now attached to the application form so that they can identify you when you do show up to the Land Control Board, that you are indeed who you claim to be, as is stated on the Land Control Board application form, right? Now, once you do that, you pay at the cash office, Ministry of Lands cash office. They issue you a formal receipt and a duplicate. You attach your duplicate to the application form and you surrender that to the Secretary of the Board, who will then proceed, or the clerk to the Land Control Board, who will proceed to prepare minutes or a schedule. They list you ideally in order or in sequence of your application date, right? So that when you do show up for the Land Control Board hearing like we did today, they call you in one after the other. If they approve, you come back for your letter of consent. In that instance, the legal process, number one, you have a receipt from the Ministry of Lands cash office for your booking fee, which is 1,000 shillings. And secondly, you were included in the in the program before the actual land board hearing, the minutes, if you will, right? Now, when you hear people talk about special boards, the reason special boards are so prevalent, even though they are utterly illegal, is because a lot of people don't want to go through the hassle of driving 2.5 hours one way like we did today to appear before the board, wait for 3-4 hours as they convene, and then drive back, potentially with a denial to your application. So what tends to happen is an arrangement is made that they have cleverly called special board. There's nothing special about it, where they charge you a slight premium over and above the normal 1,000 shilling fee that you pay to the Ministry of Lands under normal circumstances. I've heard fees as high as 15,000 shillings for a special board, and as low as 5,000 shillings. That money is split between members of the board in general. A letter of consent is prepared. It is approved, stamped by the chair and the secretary, and issued to you. And that's all you need, or so you would think. Except in the instance of a special board, number one, you don't have a Ministry of Lands cash payment receipt for the fee. And secondly, you are not included in the minutes for the actual board hearing, which would have happened prior to your special board approval. Because normally what they do is they'll backdate that approval to the last formal hearing, right? So very important that you follow due process. Don't take any shortcuts, don't cut corners, get it done right. Spend the day if you have to travel to the board hearing if that is what is required, and get your transactions done clean and right, ethically, and you can sleep well at night knowing that no one can challenge your ownership or transfer of ownership to someone else. All right, so we're back on site. I just thought I should pass by just to take a look, inspect what our contractor is working on. As you can see, there's been a few changes already. They finished the excavation of the topsoil. This area has very rich, thick soil layers. You can see it's a volcanic soil from the color. We've had soil samples done as well. It's very deep in subsections. It goes down as deep as 7 feet of pure topsoil. So for this exercise, we had to do quite a bit of excavation of the topsoil before we walked on the roads, just to ensure that we have a long-term beneficial use of the road surface. It's going to be all weather. As you can see, we've already done a section of it in Maram that's been compacted, and they're yet to do the finishing. So when it's done, it'll feel like you're driving on tarmac. It's a 7-meter wide, 6-meter wide driving surface, but if you look at the maps, we've actually allocated 12 meters for the access roads internally. The reason we do that, even though we're only required to do 9 meters, we're giving up an extra 3 meters rather, is because in the future you have to project uses of the neighborhood, if you will, with sidewalks, bike lanes. If the county or the national government decides to work on drainage, street lights, all that requires space, right? Which cannot be used on people's private property. It comes on the public access. And what we didn't want to have is very thin roads when it was all said and done, so that you have to wait for me to leave my compound before you can join the road to come in. 2 cars can comfortably drive. You can tell from the cars parked on the side. 2 cars can easily drive even with 6 meters in width, which means there's an extra 3 meters on either side for reserve, for sidewalks, for curbs, whatever we deem appropriate in the future, without encroaching on people's land, and that ensures long-term value, right? So I just thought I should share that quick update. And also, we have been offering these 1-acre parcels at an early bird price of only 799K for a massive 1-acre block of land in the middle of all this beautiful open area. Mount Kilimanjaro is hiding today. The rain started a couple of days ago, light showers, so it's too hazy to see the mountain today. But because of all the value addition that's already gone in, we're doing in total about 5.1 kilometers of road to all-weather Maram standard. We have to increase the prices back to what was originally advertised. And so I think there's only 6 parcels left at the 799K early bird price. Everything else will start from 899K going up. So get yours quickly while the price is at 799 if that's possible. But even at 899, you're getting real value, clean, legally produced, ethically produced title deeds for residential 1-acre lots in the middle of this amazing oasis. I know it looks a bit dry at the moment, but so is most of the country because of the late rains. In a couple of weeks, hopefully we can show you what it looks like after the rains, and you will not believe your eyes. It's gonna be an amazing neighborhood, an amazing community of people to join. So get yours now while they're still available.